That's on Amazon, but there's 2 sequel books to this being published now. And this book has more than 30 very refined illustrations about what happened in my experience here, dealing with an ancient past. See this guy here? How accurate that is?
Yeah.
That's Master Nim. That is a guy, Asian looking with blue eyes, but he's not on Earth. He's on another planet. And this is a master teacher named Ramu.
So is he on another planet also?
He's on Earth, but he's not from here.
And your website is paralleltime.com?
Yes, it is. That's one of them.
Where can everybody else find you? Let's go and throw that stuff out there for the listeners.
Well, okay, paralleltime.com is 2 words put together just like they're spelled with no space. Paralleltime.com. There's 3 supporting websites: Total Spectrum Publishing, Total Spectrum Productions, and Total Spectrum Media. And they're for divisions for doing certain work involving life beyond this earth that is underway to be disclosed here today through the Pentagon. So part of that disclosure people are looking for has begun, and we'll get into that too.
Yeah.
And why and how that is and what they're doing, because nobody else is really talking about it with any real experience. And it needs to be something that's talked about with their experience, or it's just theory, just data. People stay in doubt and fear because they don't know.
Exactly.
So that's the websites. I have a YouTube channel. I'll give you those links when we're done, so you can put them up on whatever you're going to put this on. And people can find 60 highly produced, short, 100-minute, 20-second videos with classical music behind them about this work, and they can watch them at no charge. My videos are not monetized at all, just so they know.
And they are really good videos. I've seen a few. I haven't seen them all, but they're really good quality videos. And I will give the links in the description for the podcast, YouTube, Facebook, and everywhere else. But just like I told you before this show, Scott, I like to try to keep the interviews. I like to somewhat go in chronological order, somewhat, but I like to keep it as organic as possible. You know,
Sure.
Wherever the conversation leads, that's where we're going to take it. But let's give the people that don't know who Scott Lemriel is. I think I said it right that time. Who Scott is?
It's just Scott Lemriel.
Well, let's give the audience explain a little bit about you and I guess, when did your experiences happen, and how far back did those experiences happen?
Well, for me in this life, this body was 3, and it was living in Salt Lake City, Bountiful, or an area near Utah, Salt Lake, where I'd spent 6 years, and then we moved. But I had I was just, this little body I was really not in it, but it was 3, and I was walking up the steps to a little brick house we had there. It was dusk. I could see the stars in the night sky. And suddenly I found myself above the body as a sphere of energy. I knew that I was a male man from another world, human, not from Earth. And I looked up at the stars. I knew exactly where I was. I said, Earth, what am I doing on Earth? I had no idea. That started to open a door way back then, dealing with life beyond this Earth. And I kept my mouth shut my whole life. I didn't talk with parents or siblings or anyone. So that opened some doors. Of course, getting and growing up in school systems that closed down. But later in life, when I was living in Washington State, I must have been about 11 or 12 at that time. This was at a time when Kenneth Arnold, I think is his name, Viper Cub pilot, captured the most realistic video of a squadron of saucer-shaped craft, otherworldly, flying around Mount Rainier. So he coined the phrase flying saucer. That's where it came from. And so that must have been about, what was that, 1960 maybe, when he did that? 61, 62.
Who, Kenneth Arnold? No, Kenneth
Yeah.
Arnold's was way before that. Kenneth Arnold's
Was it?
Kenneth Arnold was a month before actual Roswell, or maybe a few weeks before Roswell.
Oh, was it? I got to look that up.
Yep,
Okay.
it was just a few weeks before Roswell, and but yeah. Now,
So I guess what I'm saying is at that time, do you want me to continue with that
Yes,
part of the
continue with that.
Okay, so I used to sing in a choir. I lived in a place called Cherry Crest in Washington State, up on a forested covered kind of small mountaintop. You had a great view of Mount Rainier. And I'd come home from the bus, and this bus would drive a couple miles up this double road, two-way road, and drop me off at a little wooden bus stop shed. I was dropped off as the only person. The bus went downhill and disappeared into the trees. I took one step and my head was pulled up, and I was looking up in the sky. It was dusk, and there were two groups of disc-shaped craft in triangular formation, quite a few. And they broke apart, did all these dances like you would have seen in Close Encounters, but not those funny ice cream shaped ships and all that. And then they regrouped and just tipped toward me out of respect, I think. And I just acknowledged I was 11 years old, 12 years old, but I went home, I didn't say a thing. That night, I snuck out of my bedroom window at 3 a.m. and I was inspired to see what beer tasted like, so I stole a beer out of my dad's fridge, right? Snuck out the window, went up on these little narrow roadways between the houses on top of this forested knoll, this hilltop called Cherry Crest. And I popped the top of this beer can.
How old are you at this time?
About 11, 12.
Okay. I was making sure you weren't 3 years old trying to sneak a beer now.
No. That was much earlier. So I found myself on the ground, on the back, comfortable, on the street with the beer can unspilled in my left hand.
Nice.
I'm looking up and I see this disc come down. It's pulsing from blue to white light, no sound, about the height of a telephone pole. And this telepathic communication began. I was talking with a male human from another planet. It wasn't a gray, it wasn't a reptilian. And this stream of communication went on for maybe 15 minutes. Then it pulsed faster and faster and shot straight up, gone in a second. I got up, dumped the beer in the garbage can, never even drank it, snuck back in the bedroom, went and never told anyone a thing. No one. So the rest of my life was spent investigating and exploring why I was made to forget all I knew before I was born here. How did that happen? Where did it happen? Why did it happen? It takes a lot of courage to explore that material. Most people on Earth are not ready or willing to do that. They could, they're capable of it, but it takes first knowing how to put fear aside of the present and future. If you don't do that, find out nothing.
Exactly.
So,
and before we move a little bit forward, did you ever find out with any other experiences or communications what that actual UFO or the being inside that craft was?
Yeah. It's in the Sayre's Agenda book.
What's that?
See what that is?
Yeah.
That is a mile-long cylindrical craft. I guess they call it a tic-tac here on Earth.
I was just about to say that. Remember I told you before the show, Scott, I think there's possibly a connect, because cigar-shaped crafts have been spotted
big ones
for a long time.
Right.
But you have different sizes, and they've been spotted for
this is a smaller one. It's a mile long.
A small one.
It's a bridge control on each end. They do not have open launch bays. These are disc-shaped craft. You see the three familiar semi-spheric pods underneath, like the ones you see that were Billy Meyer photographed. Yeah. Okay.
Yeah.
These are more streamlined. These are current time. This craft, when a ship enters it, they change the 0 point energy, let's call it that, or electromagnetic field around the craft. They raise it up to a slightly higher molecular time rate. That makes it disappear from visual contact and radar here and become part of a slightly higher parallel dimension. And they can pass through the metal hull and land in a hangar bay, lower the vibration down. That's how they enter these. They're not open. They're designed to travel through interdimensional doorways to cover great vast areas of space. This is not new technology.
We're talking about these cigar crafts, cigar-shaped crafts.
These are the ice rings that predominantly make up Saturn.
Sorry, Scott. I was just trying to more elaborate because this will be going on video websites like YouTube and others, but it will also go on my podcast. So they'll just have audio. But yeah, so this mile-long cigar-shaped craft, where do those originate from?
They originate from an organization that is not known in the UFO and extraterrestrial disclosure communities yet. It's further back in galactic territory, stationed on a planet near the galactic core of the Milky Way galaxy. It's called the Galactic Interdimensional Alliance of Free Worlds. It is not a federation. You got to go further back to the source of things, and that organization is in charge of a little under half of this galaxy. It's made up of many 450 million spacefaring world systems, all different kinds of races, human, humanoid, some non-human, but all benevolent. They're not bad guys. There's some bad guys out there, but they're police. They're managed now. This is permanently stationed in the ice rings that surround the planet Saturn in our solar system. It has an electromagnetic field around it, slightly blue. It's there to protect us from ourselves, and it's there to quarantine our solar system. We'll get into that, why it's there. If it wasn't, we'd all be dead now.
And things have been spotted in the asteroid belt, or as Zachariah Sitchin called it. I believe he called it the iron bracelet, but
there's a giant pyramid, golden sided, sitting stationary between two stationary asteroids in the asteroid field that circles in the orbit of a planet at high speed around the sun. It was a planet in our solar system at one time. And that's doing something. It was not there before a couple of years ago. It's changing things.
Is it natural or artificial?
It is a device. It is not, I should explain that the energy out in space, all that black area you see in a Hubble Space Telescope picture, that certain scientists are calling zero-point or toroidal energy, the energy of the universe now, it is not black except to the limitations of human eyes who can't see into a high enough frequency, so it appears black. But if you get out of your body and look at this as a being, that energy out there is a white golden light. It's packed full of energy. Scientists, classified ones here, know it's energy. It is not nuclear. It is not atomic. There's no molecules, no DNA, no atoms in it. It's the energy behind things that all things float in. It's right outside the Earth's atmosphere. People call it divine spirit because they don't really understand what it's doing, how to communicate with it. But it's right there. That energy out there is not a void at all. More advanced races have learned how to work in harmony with that energy, which is why they're so much more advanced. So that's one thing we get out of the way. It'll really help in our interview later on.
So I guess let's go back a little bit. Just like I said, I'd like to keep this conversation as organic as possible. But so our dreams, I want to talk about dreams, Scott, and we'll get back onto that. Well, where we left off just a while ago. So our dreams just dreams, Scott, and do they have any significant meanings, or do dreams actually mean something much deeper and possibly some type of connection to parallel worlds?
They do. First of all, dreams are not made up in the brain at all. They got that wrong on our psychologists, psychiatrists, doctors. They really don't know. They don't understand that imagination is not created in the brain cells. There's no motion picture camera or a screen on which to project images in the brain. It's not its function or purpose. So when someone, say, is looking out of their eyes, you're in your office, you're looking out the window, and you can see what's outside. You can be looking at me, but you're imagining being near a waterfall or in Hawaii and your vacation coming up or on another planet. That we call daydreaming is actually a function of being, not the brain. And when people on Earth learn the difference, they'll advance very quickly because imagination is not fantasy. You can't make it up here. People think that because they're not taught anything else on Earth from birth till death. So they don't really know. They're not using faculties they have, higher faculties, to bring information back here. When they put their body in the trance state called sleep at night, and everyone does, they leave their body. But they have no knowledge about how to bring it back. So it's just a dream. It's just a this or it's just a that. And they don't put any proper attention on developing that. So dreams are actually out-of-body experiences, one way or another. If they're jumbled, it could be you took fear with you into the dream state before you went to bed. It distorts things because it's negative. So if you go to sleep without fear, you can have dreams of flying in a body, for instance, levitating around. A lot of people. That's not happening on Earth. That's happening in another dimension, but it's actually happening.
So could you also, and that makes sense. And I really believe that's possible, that some of our dreams, I believe it could be a two-way street. I believe some of our dreams could be like outer body experiences, and maybe the others possibly you could possibly be kind of like you're tapping into the hard drive within your consciousness. Maybe you're tapping into uh lost memories from your past life or something like that. Is that
It's
possible?
also, yeah, of course. But past lives aren't stored in a brain and personality in one body you grew up with in this life. The brain and body you have has learned only what it's learned growing up here in school here. That's it. It has no container within it to hold memory of
Are
where
they
you were.
stored in the Akashic Are they stored in the
Yes,
Akashic
but they're
records?
stored, but they're stored in you. The problem people have on Earth, the biggest one I see, is people do not have any idea of what they are that isn't a physical body and never has been. That's hard for people on Earth to understand, the way religions are, the way governments do things, the controversies they have with each other about what's right and what's wrong about God and everything else. So they fight over this stuff and have for thousands of years because they don't really know. They're taught what to believe from birth and they die in faith, but they don't have real experience. And people really need to take the next step. Believe in something, but have real experience so you become confident in what it is we are, why we're here, what our destiny is, where did we come from before this life? Because most people, as you know, they've been made to forget everything. They don't remember why they're here, how they got here, where they're going, none of it. This is not natural and it's not normal. People on Earth think it is because they don't have any other choice right now, but it's not.
And since we're on this the dream discussion, I haven't had one in a while, what I'm about to tell you, but for the longest time, I would say at least once a month, maybe once every couple months, for almost 10 years, or maybe at least 5 years, maybe the same, pretty much the same dream, give or take a few things, was black triangles. I would dream these black triangles like the world was in a type of doomsday type world. The world was in chaos. I'm talking about utterly chaos.
You mean
And
like it is now?
much, it was, yes, but much worse.
Much worse. Got it.
It was much worse, almost something like you would see in the Terminator movie. I forgot which one, where it's
Right.
just
Got it.
everything's
Yeah.
burnt and crisp, but you had these black triangles. I'm talking about thousands just everywhere, and they were taking people up. They were taking people up. I never wrote everything down, but that's the gist of the dream. And I had that dream. I probably had that dream. Some people say, well, I'm lying when I say at least 100 times, or
No,
close to it.
well,
Now, give me your thoughts on that dream.
I
Is that
will.
is that something that I'm possibly something maybe in the
Let me
future,
put it this
or
way.
what,
Let me
or what
let me
is it?
say something that's very important for your show because no one else will have ever said this. I don't think. Correct me if I'm wrong, because you have a lot more experience, a lot more people than I do. I don't have a black ops, a military industrial complex, or any part of government ever contacting me, ever threatening me, ever interrupting one of the satellite links we're on, or any negative emails or phone calls ever. Never. And yet I hear people all over the world complaining about this, whistleblowers that are talking about Nazis in the South Pole now. They start out good and they start putting out fear. They're no longer constructive for people when they do that because fear
Mhm.
blocks knowing. Knowing and confident certainty don't mix with fear. There's
Yeah.
no gray. They won't mix. So black triangles are often dark because they're stealthy, but they're made here. And they weren't designed by us. We just utilized what was shared in a
So
sense.
so the technologies from the stars.
Yes, of course. We didn't have technology like that after World War II. Are you kidding?
Hmm.
Some people are saying, oh, that Roswell craft was shot down with our radar. Oh, give me a break. No, it wasn't. So,
So
a lot of 12 craft, I think, have been recovered around the world, one form or another, Russia and a few other places. Most of it ends up here, believe it or not.
Where did the Nazis get all that technology from? The
The
vast
Nazis,
Was it from the real
specifically,
society with them tapping
no,
in some other type of dimension?
no. The Nazis, particularly Hitler, was a fan of occult dark things and power.
Hmm.
And somehow, at the time, as you know, there were a lot of little abductions by little gray guys going around the planet after World War II. We know about the stories and what happened and how people's lives were distorted till they went through reverse hypnosis regression therapy and recovered the memories, and their lives returned to normal. But it didn't make them more enlightened.
Hmm.
It just got them free of the burden of having memories suppressed
Yeah.
because it affects your nervous system. So at that time, the scientists in Germany were not more advanced. They were illegally given technology, particularly bomb technology, that was illegal for them to be given it from off world. That was struck under a treaty 500,000 years ago at the last Great War in our galaxy. And Earth is in the middle, like a Switzerland in that treaty. So obviously Hitler and all that came to an end because it was stopped, but not just by us. The beings that I work with from other worlds and other systems, the master teachers I work with, are not prone to interfere and run people's lives for them or run governments, but they will not tolerate nuclear war under any circumstance. You won't see anybody set one off above ground because they can't. They're shut down from space. Launch computers here in the former Soviet Union were shut down from space.
Hmm. It
No
happened
one
during
ever
the Cold
does.
War. Yeah.
Don't, it's like, we're not going to talk to you. You can do whatever you want, but you're not going to do that because you don't have a right as a massive unconscious people on this planet to blow yourselves up and harm hundreds of billions of life,
Hmm.
parallel dimensions, and other realities. We don't have that right. We might think we do, but we don't. Because we live in a universe, a vast universe of many, many world systems that are more advanced than we are. For instance, there will never be a future in Star Trek like you see in Star Trek in our future history, in our future, because space is already occupied by more advanced races. We're not going to take a Russian or Chinese or American flag out there and fight over the spoils of other planets because they're going to. They're already running into a big brick wall about that one. The people that actually meet with extraterrestrials, the most classified arenas, have been told they have to disclose, and there's no fooling around about this. That's underway because otherwise, the people who set off hydrogen bombs in our own atmosphere before they realized it would kill all life without a nuclear war,
Hmm.
they're the same ones that you would trust not to start a war if push came to shove and push a button because they did 12 times during the Cold War. And each time their launch computers were shut down, very highly classified. So I don't worry about nuclear war, Michael. Not because I have faith about it, but because I know why I don't worry about that. It is a way to control people to keep that threat. But you've got a lot of nuclear bombs and rusting bomb casings and rusty rockets sitting around the world unused for decades. The other thing that's important is that when we come to the thing of abductions by little grays and reptilians, those creatures are not in our laboratories or on Earth anymore. More than 20 years ago, they were sent home, but not by us. So you're going to hear stories about abductions, but they're always 20 years or more old. They're not new. There's no new
So,
abductions.
abductions don't happen in this current state, in this
No,
current time and date.
no. It's not caught up in what I would call the disclosure communities yet, but it will be when people come to
Why were they why were people getting abducted then, though, over 20 years ago, and by
because,
who?
well, not by people from Earth, and it wasn't done legally, and it was stopped. It's just say that something happened out in space among those races that changed their consciousness to be more involved here than just leave it alone, like Star Trek, hands off, don't intervene. The problem with that goes back to when a planet was destroyed in our solar system millions of years ago. It threw Mars out of balance, it threw the Earth out of balance, so its poles flipped every 100,000 years.
Maldek or Tiamat or something like
All
that.
that.
Maldek.
And what you'd call the Galactic Alliance then did nothing about it. They stepped back. They tried to avoid it, but when those leaders on that planet decided to do something stupid, they stepped back in space and let it happen. But it bit them in the ass ever since it happened. Okay, so because everything in the universe is connected through that primordial first sound, the toroidal 0 point energy that is living energy out in the universe. That void is not a void. It just isn't. There are scientists on Earth today who know this, that it isn't. They don't know what to do with it, but they know it's not nuclear or atomic.
Are we talking about dark matter?
Even behind that, because it's not really dark, except to human eyes, because they perceive it as dark. But it isn't. Other instruments detect what it really is. And they try to composite that in photographs so you get colorful nebula and all that.
Yeah.
But there's the actual energy of the energy that supports all those things, galaxies and planets and moons and suns and stars creating little electromagnetic worlds that float in this other energy. That energy cannot be composited in a photograph through instrumentation on Earth. So it appears black, but it isn't. More advanced races understand what that energy is and how to work with it. So they're much more evolved in space travel than we are because they respect it. They don't abuse it. It's a very important point that I'm making here, because if we want to play among the stars, we are going to first have to be able to respect the life that's out there, or they're not going to let us play out there because we're destructive.
Oh, yeah. What? 100%.
Okay? Our governments would take their flags out there and try to fight over something that isn't even theirs. They're not going to let us outside the solar system. It's quarantined, our whole solar system.
So
Right
our solar
now.
system is quarantined, and I've heard Earth is quarantined also. Is that true?
It is. Not because someone's going to come down like cockroaches and bomb the cities. That's never going to happen.
Is that the Van Allen radiation belt? That what do you believe it was put there for a purpose?
It's not important.
Or is it more of a psychological type of quarantine?
It doesn't block people from going past it. It's just a Van Allen belt. It's just a radiation. So what? Ships go through it. If you're protected, you're fine. That's not a big deal.
Yeah.
That's just a natural phenomenon.
I got you.
There's other things that protect anti-gravity reverse engineered craft from going very far in space. Craft that more advanced races use are driven telepathically. That means you have to have a masterful control, a different kind of growing up, to control what you imagine and think, even emotionally, or you could drive your ship right into a mountainside. A couple of pilots that first piloted reverse engineered craft drove them right into a mountain, were killed because their fears took over and the ship would obey. So this is one of the stumbling blocks of reverse engineering for people on Earth. To get over that, you have to become a rational being. Because you're going to be moving through an ether that is not nuclear and not atomic, and it doesn't obey the laws of physics. You have to obey what it does if you want to work with it. So what we are as a being is spherical. Ask yourself this question. It's because you once knew it well. Everybody listening to the show, they're going to be triggered in some way from this show, because at one time they knew what they were, what people call soul. And it's not some more lit up version of a human body like an astral body. That's the emotional planes, next division up. No, it's spherical. All galaxies, planets, moons, suns, stars are round. Galaxies are spread out, but they're made of round things.
It's not flat.
It is. It's like this, with all kinds of round things circling around a center. Big pole in the center. What they call a black hole is a concentric generator from a higher dimension to a lower. It goes right through the center. And the galaxy has a toroidal field around it. You know what a toroidal field is?
Yes, it's yeah.
Okay, it's an electromagnetic field.
Kind of looks like butterfly wings, or sort of.
It goes all the way out through the top, comes all the way around, comes back in the bottom.
Yes.
The same field exists around the Earth. The same field exists around you as a spherical being, hovering above your body, running it right now through the pineal gland in the center of the brain. And the same field exists around your body, people call an aura. It's actually shaped differently than they think. The energy of the universe, this 0 point energy, is connected through all those forms on up into higher realities.
So the energy is running through us. If we stay grounded with our spirit, our consciousness, with the Earth, the planet,
then you think you're a body, and you're afraid to lose it.
So we are spiritual beings having a physical existence here on this Earth.
The reason I don't use spiritual because it's been so badly abused.
Yes, you're right. You're right.
It's like God, pray to God. What's
Right.
that?
Right.
Who's God? Muslim, Christian, Hindu? Which God? The other thing that people have wrong here is that what they call divine spirit, we'll call it 0 point energy, energy of the universe, right outside of Earth, does not and has never required that we worship it or the source behind all life. It requires that we respect it and each other. That means not just life on Earth, but we have to, part of the requirement for freedom and conscious awareness is that we respect and know the life in the grand multidimensional creation. We are capable of doing this. You are, I am, others are, but they're afraid to do it, afraid to get out of their body. They're afraid of life. They're afraid of death. They're in fear, subconsciously programmed fear of the present and the future. And that grounds them, as you said, to Earth, to the illusion, to the Maya. And none of it's real. And you can't keep it. A few trips around the sun and you're out of here. So something else is going on. For instance, if I asked you, Michael, and all your listeners, how old are you? How would you answer me? I don't mean the body. How old are you?
In this existence here at this time
I don't mean in
my
years.
life.
I don't mean in years of your physical body. How old are you?
I can't tell you that.
Okay.
I do believe in past life, but I can't tell you how many I've had.
Let's put it in a way that will trigger this memory back in people. This is one of the things that I do. Okay, so if you are a being that's spherical and it predates the creation of the lower dimensions of time and space, what people call the physical, astral, causal, mental, and etheric planes, and what certain Buddhist and esoteric groups call the void, which is above that. They think that's it, that's God. It's not. There are many planes above that. If you come from above that originally as this sphere, all planets, moons, suns, and stars that are around are made in the image of their creators, not this. Made in the image of their creators, spherical. Okay.
Yeah. I feel like ego is going to be about. I feel like ego is about to be part of the discussion too, which I believe it.
We can get into that, but the point I'm making is not about ego or about power, because there is one power. It is not a power you can hold in your hands and control. It can split into lower energies, positive and negative, for creating worlds and suns in this dimension we call the physical universe. But it's powered by one energy that's telepathically linked throughout creation. It's one primordial first sound. Missing word in certain books is not a word, it's a sound. And we're telepathic beings that can directly plug into it.
Almost like a cosmic internet.
Correct.
Something like that.
But it cannot be perverted. You can't put negative thoughts and feelings in it. For instance, you can go outside in space in a spaceship and get out on a spacewalk from a shuttle or rocket. And the guys that do this have some kind of God realization experience because they suddenly are in an energy field that will not, and you cannot record negative thoughts and feelings in it. You can't put it in that energy. You can't stick it in the energy of the void of 0 point or toroidal energy because it's not made for that. So you go out into it, there's just you and all of it. That's profound. So when I guide people in journeys that I do privately, I take them beyond this earth, outside Earth's atmosphere before we start the journey, because then they have the greatest advantage to remember what they're doing when they come back here. I hope that helps some.
Yeah. So with this energy that we were discussing and disclosure, we briefly mentioned that, or you briefly mentioned that a while ago. Now, I guess this is a two-part question. Whenever do you believe that the government will disclose, let's say?
Yes, they will. They have to. I mean, it's not their choice anymore.
So it has nothing to do with free will, or?
Of course it does. But you got to understand something. People on Earth don't have the free will they think they have. Let me ask you this. If you can't remember who you are, that isn't a physical body, never was, never will be, or what you knew before you were born, for whatever reason, how it happened, how it got occluded or suppressed, or what your purpose is for existing, or your destiny in co-creating with the source behind all life, which is our true destiny as beings. then how can you make rational free will decisions on Earth about anything? You've got religious leaders and political leaders making decisions, unfortunately, today based on fear of the present and future, all of them. And when that's done, the decision is always, every time, incorrect because it can only result in negative repercussions in space-time. Because in space-time of the physical universe, every action we put out creates an equal and opposite reaction in space-time, which means karma, reincarnation, means if someone is living in fear their whole life, subconsciously motivated, misdirecting influences that distort their decision making, then they're creating out in the universe this one 0-point energy we talked about. It's a co-creator with us. We're meant to co-create imagination, which is not made up in the brain, with it properly, because then we create our world with it in a way that's beneficial to all life, not just life on Earth. That won't cut it. It's got to be for the greater God that's out there. All those galaxies, all those dimensions. This is the thing we're required to respect.
Yeah. And I did write, just like I told you, my audience knows, I like to try to keep it organic. But I do write some notes down, and something I wrote down, Scott, I may sound like a pessimist, but I do not trust our government and other elite factions in the world.
Why would you? They've lied to you for years.
I do not believe we will ever get full disclosure from our government. They are too much involved in keeping their power. By keeping their power means keeping free energy and other advanced technologies to themselves. If we have full disclosure, there will be no need for any type of government, or at least any type of governmental powers we have today. That's why that's what they fear the most, is losing control and having a society.
You would be correct, and if we were alone in the universe.
And that's what they fear the most, is losing control and having a society fully awakened to reality. If society is fully awakened spiritually, consciously to our nature of reality, it's checkmate. They want us to be in a constant they want us to be in a constant state of fear and servitude.
No, but if you want to give them that power, then you're surrendering your free will to them. You can be manipulated. Your radio show, you can get threats. I don't get those threats. Ask yourself why.
But that was a two-part. That was a two-part statement, though. Because
here's the thing. Say you're right.
Yeah.
And you are. Let's say there are people in the highest classified areas that really want to get off this stick themselves. They want their lives better. They don't want to get cancer. They want to have their wives and kids without lying to everybody, because it's negative to lie to people. It's not fun. It doesn't feel good. A lot of those people are being trained, worked with from people off-world to disclose.
I believe it's 2 words: order followers.
There's one part of disclosure you should be aware of that is actually part of disclosure authorized by the Pentagon. Project Blue Book.
Oh, yeah. But hold up. Before we get into that, Scott, that 2-part statement that I just said, I also wrote down, we have to quit looking for an external savior, aka the government.
Correct.
and or ETs to save humanity. I believe the power to save ourselves is within us. I do believe that one day there will be a conscious and powerful paradigm shift that will crush this false reality we live in. And when that happens, there will no longer be needed the types of governmental controls that we have today. It will be a long and very tough road traveled. However, when there's a thunderstorm, Scott, there comes a rainbow.
Yeah. And also, it doesn't have to be destructive like most people in their upbringing think.
Yeah.
There is ways. If we were alone in the universe, I can tell you, the people in power now would have annihilated us in nuclear war 12 separate times. They tried to. So don't think that way. They don't really have the power they think they do. They've got people snowed right now, and they're very much paranoid to deliver the truth. But they have been literally told, under no uncertain terms, that they have to disclose fully. And if they want to stay in power, they want things to stay balanced, and they want this transformation to take place without destruction, we are absolutely going to require the help of benevolent beings who have succeeded in this long ago to get through it, because someone helped them long ago too. Think of it that way. Everything's connected. If I thought we were alone, I wouldn't be on this show.
Mm-hmm.
That would be a waste of everybody's time. But when I know that we're not, and I have great experience throughout my life with them, then I understand from a different perspective what it is that's taking place that people can't see yet, because people that are in power making decisions based on fear now control their medias, and they don't tell their people the truth. You are correct. They
Mm-hmm.
don't. But some people in the highest level of control on this planet are beginning to do that. Do you remember the Pentagon releasing those so-called leaked UFO footages, the F-16s and all that? And Bob
Yeah.
Lazar justified. That
Mm-hmm.
was done from the Pentagon. They played 2 years of shows based on Jay Hunnick's actual diaries of what he experienced, not what the Air Force made him tell people, what he really experienced. That's why it's produced and distributed through the History Channel, not the Sci-Fi Channel. And the last episode will show you why the Pentagon suspended that show, because it was doing very well. Zemeckis doesn't even know why it was shut off. But when you look at COVID and you look at everything that's going on, that's a lot of disclosure. It was never disclosed before. Actual. Especially what Werner von Braun was doing with anti-gravity craft in a secret space program separate from NASA. You get a bigger picture of what was taking place. These were not nice people.
Where's
The
all this?
general,
And you brought up NASA,
NASA was a
and
public program.
well, and the real program is in the shadows.
Classified.
But how come NASA is getting what is it? They have like, I believe they get 60 or 40 something, 40 to 60 million dollars per day, which their budget, I believe, is 24 billion a year.
Mm-hmm.
And they're just orbiting the Earth.
You know who's
really?
You know who's
like,
watching?
Some people say
space.
that some people say that they're doing all that in a studio, and they're actually not even going in outer space, and they're actually using all the money for the secret space program.
Most of it is channeled there, yeah. But the U.S. Space Force is not new. It's just that Trump announced it. It was around as a parallel program with NASA the whole time, classified, not for the public, not for senators and Congress, not even for most presidents. That's been funded and run by a classified government on this planet involving 35 countries that was established at the end of World War II. To do what? To develop advanced extraterrestrial technologies in secret, keep it away from other countries that could be enemies, don't reveal it, see who can win, see who can get the best technology. So we've been a war-based economy for the last 100 years, which means our economy is balanced on warfare, spending old ordnance, producing new ordnance, blowing things up. That's never going to fly for the future. We'll never be a spacefaring race trying to take that ignorance, that blank fear-driven stupidity out in space, because we are not being allowed to go there the way we are. Period.
What do you believe needs to happen for us to jumpstart society for us? Because I believe there's great people in the government, because I was part of the government. I was in the military for 6 years.
They're great. I've met some classified people. Some of them are just nice people. You know what? They're in tiers of classification, and all of them don't even know the whole picture, and they want to. There are generals, 5-star, 4-star generals in this country that want full disclosure. It's coming, but as you said, they're paranoid.
If they say anything, they will be, as long as whatever name you want to call them. I don't want to, there's so many names for them. These people
don't call themselves the Illuminati anymore, by the way.
But anyways, they control the mainstream media. So let's say somebody out of the Pentagon or whoever, some whistleblower, they were to disclose everything, right? Let's say they got on just your local news network, because it ain't going to be.
Work.
I know, because they're going to be suicided, just like Phil Schneider was, and so many others.
It's like I asked George Noory when I was on Coast to Coast. I said to him, if you had all the classified documents in the world on your desk right now appear, and you told your listeners right now with me on the air they were there, how would they believe you? Why would they trust you? They wouldn't. If you suddenly disappeared out of the control and were taken aboard a ship and brought back, they could just say it was Hollywood. It's not their experience. So it wouldn't do what you think it would do. And he says, you got a point. That was George Noory. So I said, all the people you've ever had on your show have never given you any proof, ever. The classified scientists, whistleblowers, the non-classified PhD people you have on that talk about there might be life on other planets, and they mix those two up evenly to promote products, to have a show. And that's okay. That's what they do. He's a great interviewer, but he's not experienced in these ways. And he admits that. Neither was Art Bell. There are other people in the world who are well known that are physicists and people that want to disclose. They're not experienced either, but they mean well. And they're doing the best they can to try to bring some truth out here. But until people on Earth can have their own direct experience, they're never going to know. They're always going to be in doubt. So to answer your question, what's happening now, when people are out of their bodies at night, which they are every single night, there are beings who are beginning to work with people on this Earth to help them recover who and what they knew, what they are before they were born. They wake up with more enlightenment. They wake up using more of their brain than 6 to 10%. We have a 100% developed brain and only use 6 to 10% of it. Do you know why?
Room for improvement.
Because people aren't even focused on using the higher faculties that use the rest of that. They're not trained from birth to even think that way. So they remain off dormant.
We're institutionalized, we're brainwashed, we're mind controlled, and
I don't worry about that stuff.
But
I'm trying to help share something with you. Why I don't worry about it. Why am I not in fear of the present or future?
Is it because Scott, you believe everything has a natural order?
Well, it does.
And in some way, a natural order, I guess I would say, I don't really know how to explain it. I would say it's more good things will come. I would say good, benevolent, I say outcomes in the future will outweigh the malevolent and bad things. But the thing is, we will have a rough road, trying times to get.
We do right now.
We do, but I believe it's going to get. Do you believe it will get worse?
Not necessarily.
Before it gets better.
No, it's about as good as it's as bad as it's going to get.
I feel like it might need to get a little worse for people to truly awake to this bullshit reality that we live in, though.
But you can't just do it on faith. I don't work with faith at all. I'm not criticizing any religious belief or faith on this planet.
I know. I do hate to say belief.
but I don't, because my work exclusively, and with the beings I work with from other worlds and other realities all my life, don't work with faith. They work with direct knowing certainty about the nature of the universe, their relationship as a being to that 0-point energy out there, that divine spirit, people call it, and to their understanding of the source behind all life. They don't worship it like people on Earth. That keeps them subservient. It keeps them grounded to this Earth without knowing anything. Believe something happens when you die and that's it, and shut up, basically, is what is going on Earth. They don't grow up on worlds like that, Michael. They don't have worlds like that. That's long ago been given up in their history. They understand the relationship they have with that primordial energy out there, that living energy in the universe that everything floats in. And they understand the source does not want them to worship it. It wants them to respect the source, because those same people know they come from there. They're the same energy on a smaller scale, like a drop out of a mighty ocean, individualized. It's identical to the source, absolutely identical. If you can wake that link up between you and the source, it begins to bring you back to that source while you're alive in your experience. This is how it works. People on Earth are afraid to know what they call the supreme being, because they think it's so far above them, so way up on a pedestal, they can never know it. That's the teaching of tyrant kings on Earth only. The religions that are represented on this planet do not exist out in space anywhere. They're just for here.
Man-made belief structure.
Well, that also was run and controlled by kings controlling priestcraft in the history in the last 4,000 or 5,000 years here. And those people were not from Earth. Samaria was a reptilian mining colony. They brought slaves here.
So
Sumerians were people.
The accounts are true. So those accounts are true. The Sumerian tales? Okay.
Okay, because the Sumerians, unlike the Egyptians, when they saw something, they were very good at describing and documenting exactly what they saw without distortion. Egyptians would have going off in a fiery chariot under the river of the damned and all that crap. The Sumerians didn't do that. They see a reptilian in a spacesuit and they're worshiping him. That's what they draw. That's why those were important, because even though it no longer exists, at the time under treaty, Certain cultures, even tyrant ET races, were allowed to have small colonies on this planet, never dominate the whole world, because they never have. And their time was limited, and then they're gone.
You
When I
meaning
say
the
that
reptilians and other ET races, or just the
they're not,
reptilians?
they're not in our solar system anymore.
The
One
reptilians?
day, no, one day people will find this out. It'll be very relieving for them to know, when things are more disclosed in declassification, that they were moved out of our bases and moved, and there were never that many of them here anyway, but they were moved away by outside forces, taken back home. They weren't killed. They were moved away from this solar system, and the solar system was quarantined. Otherwise, they would have succeeded in getting us to destroy ourselves.
We are
That's what
talking about the reptilians, also known as the Anunnaki.
Well, that's an Earth term.
Yeah.
That's not what they're known like out there. Not all reptilians are part of tyrant races either. The ones that weren't never came here. Not all grays are part of a tyrant control. The ones that weren't never came here. Think about this for a minute. People that they call Nordics, blonde, blue-eyed, white-haired, Caucasian, are not native to Earth. They're human, but they didn't evolve here. There's not a race on this planet, Asian, Caucasian, African-American, Semitic, Aboriginal, jungle, South America, you name it, New Zealand, Australia, that originated. Not even Indian tribes originated here. It's one world going around one sun with one dead moon that does not revolve on its axis. That's not normal. And people on Earth in these different races, the differences between human beings, did not genetically evolve and split off from each other here. They were brought here from out there where humans actually evolved several billions of years ago. Humans are not new. The Say-Rays, which is something my work introduces for the first time, are the most advanced human race that ever existed. They were responsible for genetically experimenting with humans and this type and others, four-stranded human and even more, to develop body forms the spherical being could run and send higher faculties through and experience life on these different planes. That's what the bodies were. That long ago got, shall we say, the result was not what they hoped it would be. And many people got lost in these things. The Say-Rays, when they populated most of the galaxies and even the next dimension up, the astral plane, they had ships capable of going between the two. And they're only ways I know of that ever did. Then they vanished from creation a long time ago to see what we'd do with it. They've recently returned, which is why this book was written. Because it introduces Ambassador.
You pronounce that Sayray, correct?
Yeah, it's like it says Say-Rays, but it's pronounced like Say-Rays, Sayrays.
Yeah.
Because that's how they pronounce their name. These glossary of characters and terms in the back are phonetically set up so you can actually pronounce them correctly. There's parentheses around each name. It tells you how to sound it out.
Yeah.
So that's very helpful. And Ambassador Turellian is the ambassador of the Say-Rays, not to Earth, to the entire galactic alliance near the center of this galactic core of this galaxy. That's who he is. I was writing this book. I'd written the Parallel Time trilogy already years before. And I was writing this about my own experience. I kept quiet. My mother only found out what was in this book that I never told her when the first manuscript was done. And then she knew, not before. This took 5 different versions of this book to get it to where it was meant to be, including the inclusion of that special technique section. There's a technique involving the prologue and all 29 chapters. And it involves the first half of the word human and hidden in plain sight. It's a sound frequency. It's not It isn't native to Earth. It didn't get originated here. And all it does is open a door in the pineal gland, the center of the brain. What kind of door? If you're constructive, uplifting, and positive, and you work at this, it'll open a door and connect a person to the omnipresent energy out there. It's a telepathic link. It cannot be perverted by negative things or weapons or technology at all. It's a safe gate, a fail-safe. So when we start working with the first half of that word, it starts to vibrate the head upward only. Power, right here. So there's one way people have a direct experience of understanding what this word hidden in plain sight is really meant to do. It is not owned by any company, corporation, or religion on earth. It isn't patented by anybody. It can't be possessed by anyone. It is the energy of the entire multidimensional creation, the energy behind and supporting it.
The vibrational frequency of HU, who,
Hugh.
yeah,
Like the name Hugh, Hugh,
yeah.
whole round sound. It doesn't matter what tone a person uses, but if they go into kind of a contemplation, call it a meditation, and they work with it and they ask to be shown deliberately hidden truth, they will get their wish. And it comes with a certain protection. I don't need to convince anybody of it, because when they start working with it, they find it out for themselves anyway, which is the whole point.
Can you give us a brief description of, like, people listening out there that may be interested? You don't have to go on an hour discussing everything, but a brief rundown of what would somebody that's listening to this interview, how would they go about, I guess, doing this experiment, this Hue experiment?
Well, it's on the front page of my website for one. The videos are free. I also have a recording on my website under the About Scott Hugh section, and it's a recording of my voice in 3-part harmony, sending out the Hugh looped continuously for 24 minutes. You can hear a whole round sound in the middle of that recording that I did not record there. Ambassador Terrellian put that there. And it's a sound that can connect people to that omnipresent sound outside of Earth. What people call zero-point or toroidal energy, the energy of the universe, is a living force. People on Earth don't know this yet, but they will. They're destined to. If we were alone in the universe, we would not be alive having this conversation right now. We aren't alone, and things have been prevented that we would have done, or certain people on Earth would have done to all of us if they had gotten away with it. They were not allowed to. So when I say about disclosure, it is actually a greater organization of worlds outside of Earth that's determined when full disclosure happens, not our governments. Because for them to survive and be productive and have their families and have a life they want themselves, full disclosure is required for us to play among the stars. You will never take a rocket ship out in space any distance to even the greater planets in our solar system. They're just too slow. That technology will never work for that. You got to get rid of the fuel or diesel, and you got to get rid of the dinosaur fuel, rocket fuel, whatever. You got to go to a non-polluting, different kind of zero-point energy in the universe if you want to get around the universe.
Do you believe all that technology is here on Earth?
Oh, of course
at this moment? Yeah, I do too.
I know it is. I've experienced it. I know it's here.
Well, okay. All right, Scott. Now, and I believe that also, Scott. And I believe most people mean well. Man,
they do.
Most people mean well. All right. I'm not a pessimistic person at all, but whenever you see people, whenever you think that most people, I'm about to get to a point in just a second, but when you see most people, they have bad intentions. You think this world is full of evil. It may seem that way to a certain perspective. Right. And the reason that is because a lot of things are manufactured. A lot of things, like the mainstream media, they fear is the best tool for control. And now, but even those people on the mainstream media, they're just spitting out a script that they read. I believe even those people are reacting.
They are reacting out of subconscious fear. We got to get into this, what this subconscious thing is, or we're not going to make much productive event out of this interview. I mean, because that's what's keeping people back. It's unconscious.
Who are these people? Because most, I would say 99.99% of people mean well. They love their families. They love life. But what is that point? I wouldn't even say 1%. I would say, what's that 0.0001%? Who are they? And are they possessed by some type of ET ray, some dark entity, some malevolent force? Because I believe because those are the ones that's calling the shots, I believe.
Well, they were controlled by off-world races at a time.
Then why are we still having what we have going on now?
Well, the reason is because they're left with the subconscious implants that still affect them this way.
Kind of like a screen memory.
The beings that did this are not here anymore. So their negative influences had repercussions on our whole world, that nobody asked for, did not accept of free will. God didn't do it to them because it's some sadistic monster. That is an energy that supports all life, good and bad. I mean, its too is changing, fortunately for us, or we would be dead now. Which means alien races, the kind ones, are actually intervening here to a degree, not to run governments, but to prevent us from destroying ourselves, because we don't have the right to do that and destroy much of other life we don't know exists, just because we're ignorant of it. Earth has a grid work around its magnetic field that accesses other parallel dimensions through certain doorways on this planet. They're at the bottom of the ocean, on the surface, above volcanoes, or higher in the atmosphere. If you go through them and you know where those doorways are, you can travel the universe in craft that are designed to do that. You know when you see a craft blink out and blink in?
It happens at Skinwalker Ranch a lot.
What is it doing? I can tell you what it's doing technically. It's simply raising its electromagnetic field, powering up. And the electromagnetic field around the craft, when it raises its molecular time rate to that of another plane, parallel dimension, it disappears from here and instantly becomes part of that plane. And they lower it down and you can see them again. If you look under an anti-gravity craft and it's right over your head, you won't see it. You want to know why? Because the electromagnetic field bends light around it and you see what's above it until you see it at an angle. The reason they're so blurred and not distinct and lit up in the sky as orange or blue or green or whatever is because the field of energy is exciting the ions, just like an aurora borealis, and it illuminates around the craft so you can't see detail. The craft is there.
Is it also our visual spectrum can't see it in HD quality?
Right, because the light is what you're seeing that is exciting the ions around it in the atmosphere.
Yeah.
You're seeing an aurora borealis around it. See what I mean?
Yeah, yeah.
It keeps you from seeing the detail. It's purely technical. But they have the ability to simply do this as they grow up with it. It's not a big deal. If we want that technology, they don't have disease. If we want their understanding of the genomes on the billion genomes of the DNA that have been mapped out by supercomputers on this planet, they are switches that are precisely activated with precise sound frequency. One of them that says you'll die at 87 of cancer can be turned off. It can say, I won't die. The genomes, the telomeres on the end of the genome of the DNA shrink every time cells are duplicated on Earth. But on normal planets, they do not shrink when they duplicate. Somebody manipulated with the genetic species that are on Earth a long time ago. It is not normal how we are. One of the big things about disclosure is all that becomes disclosed to people. Cures for turning on the right genomes and ending cancer, that's easy stuff. Ancient technology. But if we're going to be shared it, we have to be trusted with it, you see.
But we already had that technology, correct? To end diseases and cancers and stuff like that?
No, they've mapped out the genome, but they don't know how to use them all. They don't know what to do with them. They try targeted gene therapy by killing your immune system. That's ass backwards. Because most people's immune systems will not recover after that, and they die. So it's the kind of heading in the right direction, but you shouldn't have to shut off your immune system to turn off or on a genome. They don't know how to do that yet. Okay. There might be some couple of people in the highest level of the classified military industrial complex, maybe Skunk Works or somebody that might know how to do that, but I don't think that's being given to them to know yet.
How can we send a spacecraft to the end of the? Oh, repeat that, Scott. I'm sorry.
They cannot be trusted with it yet. Obviously, leaders on this world.
How can we send probes around the moon or Saturn, and how can we do all these things supposedly out in space and all these crazy technologies that we have that's not that's already disclosed? This technology we have in just everyday life, but we can't fight cancer. And just like with the C word that's been going on around the past couple of years, remember Operation Warp Speed? I believe it was Warp Speed. Well, I believe that's what Trump did. I think it was Operation Warp Speed. We need to get a vaccine within 6 months.
Many months.
Yeah. How come we can't have an Operation Cure for Cancer?
Well, here's the thing:
Yeah, but
the
NASA has
RNA.
48 billion a year, though. NASA has 48
No, but
billion a year, and
you want me to answer the question? The RNA-based technology is heading in the right direction because it takes a piece of COVID, not the live virus, and sends it into your bloodstream so it strips the coating around the COVID, which is like cancer says to your immune system, don't attack me, I'm friendly. It strips it, and your own immune system immediately kills it. That's how the RNA-based inoculations work. They're not flawless, they're not perfect. They've just been invented a short time ago. But they work to a degree. Are they permanent? Probably not. But it's heading in the right direction because RNA-based technology, it's like, I wouldn't call it nanobots, but it's like being able to tell your own immune system to go kill something it won't kill, like cancer, that it should. There's a coating around cancer that protects, it says, don't attack me, I'm a good cell. It's a mutant cell. You strip that away and your own immune system will kill the hell out of it, just destroy it. That's not real prevalently known on this earth yet, how to do that, because it goes into sound frequency to get there. It's different. Everything's run on frequency, everything. If you know the technology and have evolved enough in other worlds to understand all and each and every genome on a DNA, you can change those DNAs for the better. Tyrants would pervert them.
I do. It's just the pessimistic side because I don't trust government. Scott is.
Why should you?
But what I'm saying is that they make too much money keeping us sick with everything instead of giving us the cure for a lot of illnesses and diseases, because they won't make that will be the end of their power reign. That will be the end of everything that they have, their control.
Pharmaceutical companies don't have the cure you're talking about suppressed. They just don't have it.
Is it like some kind of secret program,
no,
something kind of like the secret
here's
space
where that
program?
came about. During the turn of the century, the industrialists who were the billionaires of the time, the richest people are Morgan, J.P. Morgan out of England, that bailed out the United States in the stock market, that helped establish the Federal Reserve Bank, came out of J.P. Morgan in England. Okay?
Mm-hmm.
They decided to make medicine allopathic. They donated the money to the universities to teach PhD programs for doctors. They decided what the curriculum would or would not be. They wanted it to be allopathic so that medicines could be made that will suppress symptoms and cure nothing, so they can make money.
Mm-hmm.
They decided this, very unconscious people, very selfish, very greedy people at the turn of the century, 1900 plus. And that was put into practice around the world as the medicine we have now. So in universities where doctors are trained, they're never taught the word cure, period. It's never even brought up. So that's brainwashing on a large scale. That kind of conditioning people that are nice people, good people, generally, that has to change too for people on Earth, the people you're talking about, to be prepared enough to handle real disclosure and not have their nervous system burn out from all the fear they're burdened with, which would short circuit them. There's a big problem. We don't have the technology to do that here, but they do. We need them. We are brothers and sisters. We're connected. We can no longer on this earth ignore life out there because it's coming to us. And it's not going to stop doing that. We have to join into a larger field, and we got to do it respectably. And they're helping to, I should say, change certain government people right now. They're working with them at night to bring about this to where people wake up with a more enlightened attitude. They make better decisions. It starts moving in the right direction. Money starts getting positioned differently. The technology's here to end the use of fossil fuel permanently, has been for years. That's here. How you implement that and spend trillions of dollars to put the infrastructure in place around the planet to use it is another matter, because it's all invested in military, industrial, war-based machinery right now in all the countries. That has to be changed. If you can't use your nuclear weapons anymore, how long are you going to keep pretending that you can before it burns you out, kills your family? The classified people, they die of cancer too. Mm-hmm. They aren't happy. You think they're happy lying to everybody all day? It hurts. It's disgusting. It's not fun for them. And they're made to keep their mouth shut, or else by people who are made to keep their mouth shut, or else by people who do the same thing out of fear. So the fear is an artificially created emotion implanted in people,
I agree
not the
with
little
that.
chips under the skin, not the chips under the skin. That was developed on Earth by people, CIA, who had implants done to them from aliens without their permission to control them. And they were trying to figure out a way to reverse that through monitoring this technology and brainwaves and stuff of a person. And they abused people, they implanted people on Earth, but it wasn't done by Greys. The Greys never did that. That was a military industrial complex phenomena. They stopped doing it because it backfired on them. How else can I put this? The implants I'm talking about are in the toroidal field that surrounds you as a being.
It's almost like a virus in this cosmic internet, somewhat, something like that, maybe.
Think of it as a holographic image with light, sound, taste, tactile, smell, everything. That's a visual representation of something perverted.
Mm-hmm.
Put it in your mind, in that field of energy through which you see the universe. You look through this transparent holographic image.
Yeah.
You see terror and death and torture. If you dare to wake up, we'll eat you alive again. It's not even an actual experience. It's artificially implanted. They can't do anything to the atom you are because it's not nuclear. They can't harm it. But they can affect the field around you so you see distorted everything when you look out in the universe. And it gets fed back as don't do that. That's bad. You'll get killed. Those are implants. And they need to be removed and neutralized in people for them to get rid of fear, subconsciously motivated fear. If you're walking down the street and an accident happens, you suddenly go into a trauma, something's kicked into play against your nervous system that is subconscious. And it gets stimulated back in even other lives. Tyrants know this. So when they misuse science developed by humans originally and perverted out in space 500,000 years ago, and then a war came to an end, they were stopped. The damage was already done. That's being corrected. That is gradually going to be corrected on this earth. That's what you're looking for. That's what everybody wants.
I'm glad you're talking about fear, Scott, because I believe fear is a huge one. I call it I don't know, the holy Trinity triangle.
Exactly. But there's the thing, it's artificially created. It's not really.
What I'm saying is the three things, the holy Trinity triangle, what I believe is our biggest problem here, Scott, is fear, ego, and cognitive dissonance. I believe those three, if we could, I know you need some ego. I know some, but ego is
okay. Think of ego as just the sphere you are, an individual.
But it's ruining people's lives, though.
Okay, but distorted perceptions looking out in the universe from this sphere and misunderstanding almost everything, making decisions based on artificially implanted programs is going to create nothing but chaos in individual lives. Because the omnipresent energy out there that's a co-creator with us, it creates both good and bad, whatever you imagine. Combination of both, more of one or the other, it just supports it. We're supposed to learn how to master only putting out uplifting, benevolent imagination, because imagination is not made up in the brain. It's actually seeing into the multiverse and knowing things, but unconsciously for people on Earth. They call it daydreaming is an idle way of imagining anything you want. It's done by people with the least of effort, but they don't understand the value of what it is they're doing. They don't. That's the problem. It's being wasted. So that has to be awakened in people because the people on Earth that live here now once knew it, long before this life.
So we co-created this current timeline that we're in right now, this current state of turmoil that we're in.
That's correct, and we can uncreate it. See, that's where you're coming from. Yeah. We're supposed to help uncreate that, not just have it all done for us. We do need their help, but they're not going to just wave a magic wand and do it to us. We would learn nothing. They're going to help us cooperate until the whole planet is up to a point where they can bring a new wave of energy in here and start neutralizing all these subconscious problems and clean the atmosphere of all the filth. Everything that's ever been done to any person on this planet by Rome and before that and Genghis Khan and Hitler and Mayan and Yucatan and all that stuff and Egyptian, all tyrant kings, thrown to the lions, chopped off heads, mutilated people. That stuff is in the atmosphere, in micro frequencies, bouncing off the ionosphere, just like a radio wave does to get around the curvature of the Earth. It's kept within the atmosphere. It does not go out into space. So we need to clean this atmosphere up. That's I would call emotional and mental pollution that people can pick up to be open to. Then they start acting out scenarios from other lives. They go postal. Few people, not many, but a few go postal and just start shooting things. They just can't take the pressure. They snap.
It's almost
Like
like
a,
we live in. It's almost like we live in the Matrix or a simulation.
yeah,
It's
if
like
you think
people
if you look,
it's like they have a glitch. I see people
yeah.
every day that it's like they're just. It's like they glitch out, man. It's you know.
When I
I
do
don't know if
this
there's
work,
any truth to that, but it sure is.
well,
It makes me wonder.
ask yourself why no one threatens me ever. Not anybody in the military industrial complex ever. Men in Black don't show
Hmm.
up. They don't write me emails. They don't call me up and threaten me ever. Why? 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 Because my work is for their benefit as well as the rest of the people here. Everybody's involved. If we go out throwing stones at the wrong people thinking it's the right people, a general Illuminati, and not all of them are bad, then we're just perpetuating our own trap. We have to get above what was ever done to us in other lives. Somebody somewhere, like you or I, has to decide it's not worth the karma to make that person come back and pay me back for killing me. Somebody has to break that cycle. More advanced races have done this. We have to do that, or we're just caught perpetuating it. We want to pull out of that.
It needs to be
Get
a
away.
it needs to be a collective co-creative outcome
Correct.
or whatever needs to happen. I don't believe
That's
it
the
needs to.
only way it can happen.
It doesn't need to be a single person because then you're
No,
going to have religious people out there say he's the Antichrist.
not right. It can't be a single person. The energy that's moving through this unit, remember the pyramid we talked about stationed between two asteroids?
Yeah.
I think it was Corey Good that first talked about it.
Hmm.
I knew about it and was talking about it before he was aware of it from his classified associates. It's there. There isn't a ship or technology that can affect it in any way. It's physically there, but you have to be invited in and out of it. You can't attack it. Weapons, beams, nothing will affect it at all. It's something that has been brought into the worlds of time and space that is non-molecular, non-material, but exists here so that it cannot be. It only the energy that comes through it moves only one way. It's not dual. It's not positive and negative. It's only one way. The energy coming through it supports positive and negative, but it's starting to unify what is opposed in people as good and bad. Their imagination puts out a split energy in two directions. They want good for their life and their families, but they're terrified of the present and the future. The two neutralize each other and ground their energy to the earth. If the energy of the imagination becomes whole, the positive and negative within the being is surrounded by another energy and it puts out a constructive only energy. There's no karma. It ends karma, see? So this is something that is technological, spiritually, I guess you could say, that is known out among the stars. They want to share that with the people here, but they have to be prepared to keep it if it's given to them.
It's
See my
almost
point?
yes, exactly. And this polarization, I believe, is just like as above, so below, and all these other things. I believe we got to be able to learn how to combat those type of things to move forward. We need to learn how to
When
and,
I get negative energy coming to me, it could be from anybody on earth. It could be a
yeah.
tyrant, could be a leader, could be a general. I just send the hue back to them. It turns their entire thing around, starts to benefit them. Instead of getting attacked in reverse for what they've done, they stop doing it. People don't think this way. If they did, not only would they not fight anything, but the response you would give back to that attack would begin because the energy that comes through you is the whole universe. It will change them. We then become responsible co-creators, boots on the ground to help bring this transformation about. That's what my work. That's why I'm on this planet at this time. That's why I came here. This is a choice I made. I could throw stones at reptilians for killing me before I came here. I came here as a diplomat to presidents 70 years ago, and that ship was intervened. That was at a time when this was taking place, and I was killed, and I was stuffed in a body here. I didn't volunteer to come here that way. All I'm doing now is carrying out my mission after all this time.
So
I chose to recover and stop throwing stones and start to do something with them to change things. So, in other words, I'm not the only one that's come here from other worlds to try to reach presidents and get them to get rid of their nuclear weapons, drop their radioactive technology, and accept something much greater. They were turned down, even by Eisenhower, more than once. This has to change.
Is there a bunch of people? Could there be a bunch of people out there, Scott, that could be also ambassadors like yourself that just doesn't?
As long as they're representing good things from other worlds, sure.
Well, no, what I'm saying is, could there be a bunch of people out there that are ambassadors, but they don't know it?
Sure. Why not?
Yeah.
They're not from here. You're not from originally. Nobody on this earth, as perverted as the most perversion is, no human being ever evolved on this planet from the primordial swamp, from dinosaurs to monkeys to man. Cro-Magnon and Neanderthal, they're extinct humanoid species. We didn't come from them. That's just theory. Still, to this day, there's no provable missing bone they've ever found because they won't find one on Earth. Humans didn't evolve here.
You didn't hear we came from a monkey, or we came from a puddle of mud.
It's just theory. Well, a fish started walking on its flippers and then it grew into a human.
So basically, just like we were talking earlier, this is a prison planet, or the solar system is. And
it was considered a prison planet for political prisoners at one time.
So what about and so we came here, and maybe it's something, it's like a.
Don't you feel like you more or less belong among the stars with
craft? 100%.
You don't feel normal here because you've made to forget all that, but it's still part of your former existence.
So we were sent here, and I believe I agree with that. So we were sent here a long time ago, and also we're talking about the moon. It's artificial, and could that be? It was placed there to act, and maybe that is something that keeps us.
We're supposed to have three. Where are they? Why is there one? Here's the thing. You got a powerful gravitational field around the Earth.
Mm-hmm.
You got a powerful gravitation around the sun and Saturn, Neptune, all these other planets that influence each other. Our one moon in the whole solar system does not turn on its axis at all under those influences. It always stays fixed, showing us the same side. That is absolutely not normal at all. When it becomes a full moon, the vibes, the energy of the moon and the earth react to pull the tides, but that pulls the body in water, so people are emotionally unstable. The water gets pulled right and left. At a full moon, people have, if they're positive and up, they're going to have higher energy. If they're negative, it's going to be amplified down. They don't know this, so they call it psychic, this and that. But it's purely mechanical, really.
And everybody that's listening to that, what he's saying is true about the full moon. A lot of people already know this, but my wife, she's a psych nurse, and every time there's a full moon,
mm-hmm. Good or bad,
they get a bunch of patients. They get a bunch. Yeah. And so if that moon wasn't there, let's say we had an actual moon.
What if it was turning on its axis?
Would we not have the chaos? Would we not have the chaos that we have today?
No.
Or if we had, or because I believe that moon is artificial. If we had let's say a moon that's around, I don't know, Iapetus or some other moon, that we had another moon there.
Part of my work discloses what people from elsewhere and in higher dimensions are going to do to replace that moon and fix this solar system, because it's in the process of.
Would that fix everything if that moon? If we didn't have that artificial moon,
or if we had more than one, none or more than one. That's the rule.
Could there be something inside that moon? Could there be something inside that moon that is
sure.
It's like there's a war on our consciousness.
You are aware that the Apollo astronauts, when they went to the moon, were classified under the CIA, never to talk about what they saw until they nearly died. And then three of them came out and said it. They landed on the moon and saw a big craft land near a crater. ETs come out and watch them, and they could not tell anyone. There's more than one reason why we never went back to the moon, they say.
Yeah, over 50 years later,
the United States go to the moon and then just tell everybody we're not going back? Because that's virtually what they did. They had classified space programs that went back. Particularly the U.S., I know did, especially on the backside, because you can put a base there and no radio telescopes or astronomical devices can tell what's going on there. It's always facing away from us. Perfect place to put a classified base. even with ETs if you want to, not necessarily the good guys. Unfortunately, our governments after World War II made deals with the wrong crowd and then had a devil of a time trying to get them out of our laboratories. Couldn't do it. Eventually, they were removed, but not by us. They're gone.
Before we round things up, I got to have you back because we have left. We've had a really good organic conversation. There's a lot of things I want to pick your brain with, but before we leave off, what about you're talking about laboratories? What about the Dulce base and Phil Schneider? What's your thoughts on that?
He's dead.
Yeah.
See, Phil Schneider was actually working at the base and signed a deal that, under penalty of death or imprisonment that he would not disclose. He did because he was pissed at how he was used. Eventually, he was killed. But Bob Lazar, he did the same thing. Why is he not dead? Because
Makes me wonder. Yeah.
Bob Lazar went back to accepting being classified. He talks about this. And he had a friend, a German scientist at Alamogordo, I think it was, that got him into the program, kind of looked out after him. So he was kind of protected. So he does this stuff where he builds science stuff for kids and does that. And he has a legitimate business, but he's still classified, still works for the government. He doesn't talk about anything else he's doing now, but he's allowed to disclose that what he did was real. That much disclosure is verified. Like the ships, the Tic Tacs that are flying around, buzzing, our jets never harm him, going to 80,000 feet down to sea level in a few seconds and zipping across halfway around the planet. That's real stuff. Those are real beings. They're not attacking. You ever wondered how many times the military has fired at those craft and they've never retaliated? By rights, they have a right to, but they never have. Why? See, that's the point people don't ask. Why haven't they retaliated? They don't need to. They're more advanced. They understand what's coming. They're not going to blow us up because some idiot in the Pentagon decided to fire at one, see what happens. Kind of stupid.
Mm-hmm.
Come on, these guys are way ahead of us. You're going to fire at them and start a war. We're going to lose badly. In a few seconds, we'd be over on this planet. So
they know what's inside the craft. ET. Do you know what type of extraterrestrial race is piloting these Tic Tacs or these cigar shapes that maybe these things been around?
I can tell you this: it's not reptilian, it's not grays, it's not our classified black ops,
and it's not a drone.
No, I'll leave it at that.
Okay.
And they are policing our solar system heavily now to keep us from annihilating ourselves. Basically, that's it.
Do you think that these Tic Tacs is what people will have classified, spotted, observed as cigar-shaped UFOs in the past?
Yeah, of course. I have one on the front cover of this book.
Yep.
It's more detailed than you'll ever see, with ionization around it, exciting the ions of the atmosphere, make it difficult to see, but this you can see the detail. If you look at this, there are little oval shaped, I don't know how much you can see.
No, I can see it.
On the book, you can see there's near the equator, the center section, there's little oval shaped vertical windows, portals, all around the outside circumference that craft members can see and look out when they're traveling much faster than the speed of known light, because there is no limit to the speed of light, by the way, other than the limits man has put on it from their eyes that can only detect a certain speed. There's no limit. I can tell you this, that life 50 billion light years away from here in other galaxies is still present time. It didn't take 50 billion years for that light to get here like they think, because they're applying it to a limitation they have artificially put on the speed of light that doesn't have one. If it goes higher than 286,000 miles per second, infrared, ultraviolet, X-ray, gamma, and so forth, there's no limit. It goes all the way up through the multiverse. Quantum physicists can prove, at least mathematically, multi-dimensions exist. They don't know how to access them yet. They know they're there. Certain people in the classified industrial military complex and the government that runs it know these exist, but they aren't privileged to navigate them yet because they're not trustworthy at this point.
Well, I need to have you back on the show, Scott, to pick your brain.
I'd love to come back, and there's more. There's so much more we can play with.
There's a lot of things.
I could do a technique for you guys and show you how this works to get people to go into trance state. They go in every night anyway, like masters, and leave their body consciously to go play among the stars and wake things up. Because that's what I do in private sessions I conduct and have for 5 years that are not on the internet. They're not on YouTube. They are private, and there's never any money involved. And I take people in a hotel group in Thailand in this journeys like this. I do a radio show with Perry Binns in Thailand. We do this. Those are for the public. The private sessions are not ever put on the public out on the internet. They're for private help for individuals who really want that assistance. It's takes a lot of time and energy to work with people that way, but it's worth it.
So give out your social media and your website where people find your books, and
Sure.
how can people contact you if they have something?
Oh, very simple. Contact
if they want to tell you something, you know.
Okay, so you write me an email. I'm going to give you all this information so you can put it on the bottom of the video or whatever, you know.
You don't mind me putting your email in the?
No. But
Okay.
the email, no, I'm not giving my personal email. I don't know what nut might call me, but if they go to the contact link on paralleltime.com and they write to me and they're sincere, I will write back to them from there and I'll get their email.
Okay.
Anywhere in the world. Okay. That's one. And then there's 4 websites. The primary one is paralleltime.com. PARALLELTIME.com. Can't miss it. There's 2 presentations I'm doing, one in Norway and one in Finland. Very special. That grounded new energy into this planet. That's why I went over there. So I'm presenting to people like Ervin Laszlo's, a quantum physicist in Italy, has 80 books out. These are some of the people that I co-presented with there. Professor Gerald Pollack out of Washington State University, foremost expert on the 5 phases of water, one of which is telepathic. So and that's been proven. So there's a lot of stuff there. There's no cost, and people can watch these videos and probably discover a lot they were made to forget on their own through their own efforts. The book, The Savior's Agenda, has techniques in the back that will help them to have the experiences I reveal in this book about life beyond Earth. That's what they're there for. Okay.
Well, Scott, I really appreciate it, man. I had a blast. Definitely got to get you back on the show. I say that.
Why don't we do like part 1, 2, 3, 4, something like that?
We can do that, and
we'll anyway.
Yeah, we'll definitely do that. And Scott, I appreciate it. And you have a good evening, and we'll definitely keep in touch.
Thanks for inviting me. Pleasure meeting you. I really enjoyed it as much as you did.